Any comments from
That's
the 8
me.
Wing 7?
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm the Maverick.
So,
When you get it tattooed on my arm, Maverick.
it was funny when I was first reading The Road Back to You.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Career Brand Story, a podcast that provides expert career coaching every week. I'm Christie Tudor, and on today's show, we're diving deeper into the Enneagram, and we're looking at numbers 8, 9, and 1. The Enneagram is a wonderful approach to understanding yourself more and approaching life more wholeheartedly. I'm glad to welcome back our guest, Christie Tudor, who's our Chief of Culture here at Career Brand Story and Enneagram Guide. And as always, Jebb, I did it
Jebb
again
Graff.
This week. Jebb Graff, it's because I make that joke all the time. Jebb Graff, our commercial photographer and creative consultant. How are you all today?
Doing great. Really happy to be doing this as usual. It's a good Friday night.
I'm good.
Yeah, this is a fun Friday evening record. We've already been laughing and having some good times here and looking forward to really diving into this. So Christie, why don't you start us off with, I know as we dive into these numbers, it's probably going to be helpful if we had some common language to be able to work through this. So what are some common languages, some things that we need to know as we explore these numbers?
Yes. So Enneagram work is first and foremost a personal tool to regain your true essence and inner balance. So the entire goal of the Enneagram is personal work first. And yes, it affects our relationships. Yes, it affects the way we kind of perceive everyone around us. But I just want to throw out there, this is not something that we use to go around typing others. It's very tempting, especially as you're continuing to kind of learn the Enneagram, to try to kind of get your head around different numbers. And so it's very tempting to just say, I think you're a 2 or I think you're a 5. And that can be a lot of fun. But there is some drawbacks to that. It's important to remember that while we see each other's outward behaviors, each person's inner motivations are a very personal thing. We see the things that people do, but we don't always know what is driving their behaviors. And in fact, finding your Enneagram number is a very personal thing. It can be harmful and hurtful to assign someone a number, especially if you're wrong. We must give each other space on the Enneagram journey to become more self-aware and discover our true number. So for some, it is very easy and obvious to find your number. For others, it may take a while to narrow it down. There are many reasons for this. One is that we each have parts of us that will resonate with each number. All of us have different behaviors that we could draw 1 through 9. So, we're going to notice that. We're also affected by our context and our cultural perspective, our experience, and our parents' numbers. And all of those things will have an effect on our core numbers expression.
So you're saying that I shouldn't throw a party and do like an Enneagram game and where we guess everybody's number?
Probably not.
Okay. Duly noted.
Take that off the calendar.
The Enneagram game for Thanksgiving's off the table, family.
No, there actually is an Enneagram card game, which I've kind of wanted to pick up, but my guess is it's probably a little bit more like, helping people discover their number.
We should pick that up and play it with the family.
So a few things that I want you to kind of think about, like as we go through the numbers, is instead of focusing on what you do, focus in on why you do it. It can be helpful to think of yourself at the age of 20 if you're a seasoned adult. So if it's been a little while since you were 20, it's helpful to think back to that time period in your life. And the reason is because as we continue to get older, we just continue on in all of the ways that we cope with our personality. We also want to look for a description that resonates with who you actually are, what actually motivates you, and not who you wish you were or would like to be. So in this system, it's not who you aspire to be. It's just an honest introspection of, what is actually going on with me. So before we start with our first number, I also wanted to kind of throw out there some Enneagram specific vocabulary words. The first one is core number. We each have one core number, and that doesn't change. I know I mentioned that last time. It is believed to be locked in by the age of around 5. So like a prism, there are infinite expressions of each number. However, there are shared traits for each type. So, whether it's 4, 5, whatever, we're going to have some commonalities, but you could have, a whole room full of 9s and they can be, very unique and very different. There are shared traits for each type, such as our core motivation, your stance towards others, and the center of intelligence, the main intelligence center we operate from. And I'll explain that in a minute. The second keyword that we want to talk about is wings. That's another concept that we're adding.
I like wings.
Mild with ranch.
Mild.
So in any
teriyaki mixed with hot, like a terry hot.
So in Enneagram language, wings are the number that is on either side of your core number. So it is never a number that is across the circle. For example, my core number is 4. My wing is 5. So I say I am a 4-wing 5. There are certain attributes of 5 that color my expression as a 4. Not everyone resonates with one of their wings. So some people say, I really don't relate to either of the numbers on either side of me. I'm just my number. Others may feel like they drift back and forth between both wings, depending on the context or depending on what's going on in life or, their season of life. However,
so is that true with the wings that when they just say, I am just this number, or is that self-awareness that they're not like seeing that the wings are there?
It could be a little bit of both. There is like a self-awareness component where as you continue to learn the Enneagram, you kind of like start to notice things about yourself, where at first you may only see like the core traits of like your number. But then, as you kind of continue to think about it, you may start to notice, oh, that's really more like for you. That's really a 8-wing 7 rather than an 8-wing 9 type of behavior. So Some of it you just kind of notice, but there's not like a hard and fast rule that says that, you are really going to lean heavily into your wing or into one wing. There's a lot of movement as far as the wings go. So the core number stays the same, but the wing, you can actually learn to kind of embrace different parts of both wings. So that's kind of a cool dynamic part of the Enneagram. One thing to note is that your core motivation is going to stay with your core number. You're never going to take on the motivation of one of your wings. So, for you, 8-wing 7, you're never going to take on the motivation of a 7. You're still going to have the motivation of an 8.
Okay.
The next one is the intelligence center, or it's also called triads. So when you look at the symbol of the Enneagram and you think of the 9 numbers, there are different ways that they're grouped. So today we're going to talk about 8, 9, and 1. And there's a reason why we're starting with 8, 9, and 1.
Because we don't know how to count.
So the thinking behind it is to kind of start to explain why certain numbers are grouped together rather than just going through 1, 2, 3, or clockwise. So one major way that we can understand the Enneagram is triads. And the idea is that as humans, we all operate out of 3 centers: our body, our heart, and our mind. So that's kind of pretty straightforward. But each triad, which is each group of 3 numbers, operates most out of one center. So today's grouping is the body center, or it's also called the gut center. So that's the numbers 8, 9, and 1. The other 2 triads are the heart triad, which is 2, 3, 4, and then the head triad, which is 5, 6, 7. So we'll go over those in the next 2 podcasts. Burgess and Bell in the book Modern Enneagram say, when we are balanced, we have equal use and access to all three intelligence centers, allowing us to access powerful strengths. All of us possess these three centers, but one of them is dominant in shaping our personality type strengths and challenges. While the dominant center holds powerful abilities, it also has the most potential to be overused or misused. All right. I feel like this is a lot of information.
It is, but we're all following you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in.
All right.
People love the Enneagram.
All right. The last key word that I wanted to throw out there is stance. So this is another set, another way of understanding the Enneagram. And this comes from psychologist Karen Horney. I think it's Horney. Yeah. So stances refers to our social styles. And so we have the aggressive independent stance, which is 3, 7, 8. And those are, they move against in life. And then we have the dependent or compliant triad, 1s, 2s, and 6s. And those move towards in society. So they move towards people and relationships to get things done. And then we also have the withdrawing triad, 4s, 5s, and 9s. And those move away from, So
What?
Jebb and I both are in the withdrawing triad. So we move away from society in order to accomplish things or in order to recharge our energy.
All right. So the things we got to remember as we dive into these numbers is we've got wings.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we can have wings on either side,
Mm-hmm.
or we may not even identify with the wing. And then we've got intelligence centers, or what else did you call them? The triads?
Yeah.
Or the triads. And that's like gut, heart, and head.
Or body, heart, and
Body, heart, and head?
Yes.
Okay. And then we have stances from aggressive, dependent, or withdrawal.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
I'm
good.
ready.
Okay. All right. So he's going to like the fact that we start with 8.
Because we're starting with the best.
So, and 8s would say this. So first I'm going to kind of hold up Lauren Phoenix's wonderful artwork for 8s.
Yes, and we'll be talking about the giveaway with Lauren Phoenix at the end of this podcast, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah,
Right,
and if you're a listener and not a watcher, this is one of the advantages to watching is you can see the beautiful artwork.
Yes.
In addition to the
so go
faces.
to YouTube, subscribe, like the button, and click the bell.
Yes.
There you go.
All right. So starting with Enneagram 8, it is called. They can be described as the challenger.
Yes.
So this is a list of what it may feel like to be an 8. Everyone says I'm blunt, I'm too blunt, aggressive, or intimidating.
Check.
Actually, do you want to read?
I read this earlier in the script, and I told Christy, I was like, this is all true. Everyone says I'm too blunt, aggressive, and I always hear I'm intimidating. I love a good debate. I don't mind opposition. The way I say that is I like healthy dissension, so bring it. There's nothing worse than a weak handshake. Absolutely. If you've got a fishy handshake, I'm done. I'm out of the conversation right away.
But what about my carpal tunnel?
Sorry. Like that's my first thing. I'm like, nope, nothing's going further. There's nothing. Don't mess with people I love. That is 100% true. Don't do things halfway. I'll either go big or go home. I have no problem confronting a bully. Justice is worth fighting for. I do resonate with that, but I will say that, I'll still, it doesn't mean I like conflict. I have no problem saying no, and I expect others to do the same. I'll be honest and direct with you, and I expect that from you too. Make decisions fast, and I'm usually 10 steps ahead. That's very true. Under my tough exterior is a kind heart.
Oh.
So my friends always joke that I have the black Care Bear heart, and we're going to make a t-shirt around that. But yeah, I really actually have a very tender heart for people.
I will go on the record and say I have never said that. Am I your friend?
That's why you're my best friend.
Does this mean we aren't friends anymore?
Because you don't actually say any of these things. You've never told me that I'm intimidating either.
Oh, right.
I don't think you've ever thought that. Have you ever thought that?
Or you may have thought some of these things. But
I don't think I've ever thought that. No, I have that problem that, that we'll get into when we get to nines.
Oh, that's true.
Where I see both sides of every coin. So,
yeah. And the last thing here, it says, I don't have to be the one in charge, but I hate to be controlled. That's absolutely true. Every one of those is a check mark for me.
Okay, good. That's a good checklist. So if you're listening to this and you're nodding along and you're thinking absolutely, then you may think, I might be an 8. So once again, this is in the body or gut center. So the way you operate out of is your body and gut first. And then, after that would be your head and heart. The stance is aggressive or independent. So you tend to move against to make things happen. So yeah, Jeremy's nodding along.
Yes.
The core motivation is a desire to have power and impact. So I will say that one thing that's believed, that's commonly kind of put out there about 8s is that 8s have to be in control, that they love control, or, they've got to take the lead. But I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Well, so I talk about motivators within DISC. We talk about the 12 driving forces. And so the way it's said over there is that you lean more towards like there's a scale. Either you're more on the commanding side or you're more on the collaborative side. And the people who are more on the commanding side, it is that desire to be recognized for leadership, like that, this person is a leader and can lead us. And again, I think, at least I know for me, if I know who the leader is and they're competent and they're doing that well, I'll move more onto that collaborative side. So I don't know if this is true in Enneagram, but as I teach it, the 12 driving forces, I see that our motivations are more scalable. Like, there's movement in it, I guess, depending on the circumstance, the situation, and the people.
And probably the self-awareness.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
People that are more self-aware may be more willing to, collaborate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. That's interesting. Core fear. Some people like to talk about the core fears, so I'll throw them out there. Being harmed or controlled by others. So each number has a core fear as well as a motivation.
Being stabbed in the back.
So yeah, that's a big one. The talk style is commanding. So 8s tend to speak in sentences or with exclamation points.
That is good that we speak in sentences.
Oh, sorry. I said that wrong. Oh, man. Okay. This is Friday the 13th and feeling a little rough. So let me try that again. So the talk style is commanding, and they speak in sentences with exclamation marks and periods, not question marks. So the tendency is when you're in conversation or making a statement that it won't sound uncertain. It'll sound, very, very clear.
Yeah, I do that all the time in a relationship. I'll make a statement, and I do that without realizing that other people are hearing it as a statement, and I may not even mean it as a statement, like that it's a done deal. I'm actually maybe trying to leave it open-ended or trying to figure something out.
And the cool part, both in our relationship and here at work, so because we've started to kind of learn this language, then I can kind of say, like, if I feel like he's kind of spoken as a statement and there's still room for discussion, I'll say, hey, do you mean that as a statement? Or, or do you realize that you're saying this is kind of like a done deal? And he'll usually say, no, I didn't realize that. And here at work, we've got, several 8s that are on the team. And so it's just good kind of awareness and kind of a good thing that we can kind of mention every so often. We can kind of laugh about it and be like, hey, you just said that as a statement.
Or you'll say, you will not speak that way to me.
And boundaries are wonderful in every healthy relationship.
That's right.
So, okay.
What's a boundary?
So just keep on going, Jebb. We'll get there. Okay. So as far as traits and behaviors, if you're kind of wanting to understand more of what an Enneagram 8 looks like, when we think of like the kind of common traits and behaviors, it's kind of on this scale. So we talk about in Enneagram work that your greatest strength can also be your greatest weakness. And so it's important as you learn your number for you to see the beauty in it, for you to see the strength in it, for you to be able to embrace it and see what the healthiest path would look like for you. But it's also important for you to be aware of that when taken, when it starts to slip into, kind of an average space or an unhealthy space, some of those great strengths can kind of start to slip into weaknesses. And I'll explain kind of what that looks like. So with the healthy 8, they make great friends, exceptional leaders. They champion the underdog. They're a strong advocate. They are creative and smart in the different arenas that they work in, whether that is, in their, personal life or professional life. They have a high stamina in everything that they do. They can be collaborative. They can embrace vulnerability. It's said that they have an executive presence. So
that's why I'm the CEO. I don't know.
So it's been described that when an 8 walks in the room, that they walk in the room.
Yeah. So I've been told that when I walk into the room, it goes back to that intimidating thing that they're like, I have a presence, and typically it's not unusual. If I were to walk into a meeting where I don't even really know everyone and no one really knows anyone and we're working through something, it's not unusual that I end up being the leader of the group. Mm-hmm. And in fairness, when I say that, like many times, like I'm a little surprised, like I walk out of the room and I'm like, how did I end up leading that? I don't know that everyone else perceives it that way, but that's really internally, I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I think that's very common for 8.
Well, maybe don't just intentionally sit at the head of the table in every meeting you walk into.
Oh, that's my chair. I think you're in my chair, Joe.
Exactly. Exactly. Maybe don't wear the red tie.
Maybe not bring a gavel with me. I don't know.
Yeah. Bad.
Yeah.
All bad news if you don't want to be the leader of the meeting.
Right. Okay. So other attributes of a healthy 8, high energy, action oriented, open-hearted, and courageous. Those are all good things, all great strengths that 8s bring to the table. So average 8s, just some of these are just neutral traits, and then some are just where you can kind of see the strength that, just kind of, is just there out, just in the average health. So you start to see dualistic thinking. So dualistic thinking is very black or white thinking. So it's either good or bad. You're either in or out. It's win or lose type of thinking. Assuming leadership, high achiever, risk taker, commanding, savvy, loves to debate, risk taker, protective, blunt, admires strength, can be confrontational, can be called high voltage, passionate, competitive, funny, troubleshooter, hardworking, and resourceful. So all of those things, can be good, as long as we're continuing to work towards self-awareness. But if it starts to go into excess, if you start to kind of slip into unhealthy behavior, and really it's more about just a lack of self-awareness. It's a lack of self-awareness and social awareness in working with other people. 8s can become bullies, impulsive, combative, hot-headed, intimidating, reckless, bullheaded, prone to excess, hardened, steamroller, unforgiving, suspicious, and destructive. So I know that those are kind of, all kind of intense. But yeah. And
you doing okay over there, Jeremy?
Yeah. I'm hanging in here. No, I mean, it's okay. I mean, but I have to be honest. I resonate with some. I can see like times in my life where I have been unhealthy, and maybe been like suspicious or slow to trust. The unforgiving once betrayed, that one very much resonates with me. And, I have to work very hard on that. So, because once you're off my list, you're off my list. You're dead to me.
And this is actually not just a Jeremy thing. This is an 8 thing. So we'll kind of come back to this at the end of the 8 section where we talk about growth points because this is common. I've heard from many 8s.
And you and I, we talked about this last weekend when you were in Nashville for your cohort. We actually talked about this one piece about not forgiving once betrayed. And, it's not that I can't forgive or that I can't let people back in, but it can't just be by words only. Like I've got to see genuine, and like, that's where the authenticity and the vulnerability, as much as I give that, I want to see that back from someone. I want the same intensity back from that person, I guess.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So with Enneagram 8s and relationships, and that's personal and professional, they put honesty and directness into their relationships and into their communication. And so they expect that back. And so even, in terms of, conflict, they are expecting, for you to bring it, bring some honesty and bring some effort, into that, which, makes sense. So I think what we see here, I don't know if it's starting to kind of continue to make sense, where, we with self-awareness and with work, we can kind of keep our eye on what our healthy space looks like. And, it is not a good or bad situation where, like we have this perfectionism idea of our number, and we are trying all the time to stay in that just perfect zone. There is no staying in the perfect zone. In a normal human life, in a normal healthy life, there's an ebb and flow. And so in times of stress and times of relaxation throughout a day, you're going to kind of fluctuate between, this really healthy space and then maybe an average space. And you just kind of want to keep an eye on the red flags in your personality of like, okay, I'm kind of becoming a little bit more hot-headed, or, I'm becoming more impulsive. So those are good kind of warning signs. I've heard it described as kind of a check engine light that can kind of go off in your head. Like, oh, I kind of need to pay attention to this and maybe practice some healthy self-care. Ian Cron and Suzanne Stabile in The Road Back to You said, not all 8s speak loudly or karate chop the air with their hands to drive home a point in conversation, nor are they all physically intimidating people. These are stereotypes, not personality types. The defining features of an 8 is an overabundance of intense energy they radiate wherever they go, regardless of whether they are introverts or extroverts, big or small, male or female, liberal or conservative. Every 8 I've ever known oozes confidence, fearlessness, and strength.
So did we talk about the wings?
Not yet.
Oh.
Yeah, that's next.
Good, because I want to talk about the wings.
Okay. All right. So
settle down there, Hoss. We're getting there.
I'm just excited. You'll see why in a minute when we get to the wings.
So when we talk about wings, once again, we're talking about a number on either side of your core number. So an 8 will never have a wing 1 or a wing 5 or, a wing 4. That's just not the way the Enneagram works. So the first one is 8 wing 7. And this is called the Maverick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so Jeremy's excited about this one.
Y'all heard it here first. I'm a Maverick.
So he is an 8 wing 7. And the way we see this play out is that all of that strength and leadership and energy and that personality is flavored with the 7 sunniness. So the 7 on the Enneagram is the enthusiast, and the 7 is a very playful, fun, loving personality. And so when you have an 8 wing 7, they can often be outgoing, energetic, fun, sunny, ambitious. They can kind of be impulsive sometimes, or even reckless if they're not careful. So even with the wings, you can continue to see that, you have to have some self-awareness and some work so that these don't go too far. But they love to live life to the fullest. They are the most energetic of all of the numbers and the most entrepreneurial, which makes sense. They're more social than the 8 wing 9 and more gregarious. So they can be fiery, playful, and even roguish. Any comments from
That's
the 8
me.
wing 7?
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm the Maverick.
So
when you get it tattooed on my arm, Maverick.
It was funny when I was first reading The Road Back to You, Jeremy kept asking, have you come to my number yet? And I think it started on 8s. And so I started reading it and I was like, nope. Because the way that I met Jeremy, he's always been so sunny, like from day one, our entire, 20 something relationship, he's always been very sunny. So, some of the beginning descriptors of 8s kind of sounded a lot more like CEO business guy and just didn't seem to match him. And some of that's, just the stereotypes. But then he saw the one line about the 8 wing 7 about being sunny. And he was like, well, there I am, silly. And so it was just this really funny moment of like, oh, okay. So, it can help to kind of see the way that a wing can kind of narrow it in because sometimes the number seems kind of broad. And then we can find our place in the system. 8 wing 9s are described as the bear. So an 8 with a 9 wing brings in a little bit of the peacemaker personality of the 9, and they have a more measured approach to life. They can be more approachable, more open to cooperation over competition. They're supportive, modest, and less blustery. They can be successful negotiators and quietly protective. A few famous 8s. Sometimes it's fun to see what that looks like. So Martin Luther King Jr. Was an 8. We have Muhammad Ali, Angela Merkel, Winston Churchill, Pink, Serena Williams, and Sean Connery are a few famous 8s.
R.I.P.
Yes. What's interesting, so in the intelligence center, the body and gut center, there is also a common way that 8s, 9s, and 1s deal with, they actually deal with anger in different ways, but it is also called the anger triad. And they each have their own response to anger. And so the way that 8s respond to the world is through externalized anger. So that's just an Enneagram truth for you. But
but I do not do that.
Well, what's interesting, so in a lot of...
I did get a little angry. I did. Like... Wait.
He's like, hold up.
I'm getting a little angry. I might have gotten a little angry in our setup here today. No, I didn't really. But I don't externalize my anger. But you and I have talked about that before too. The emotion of anger was a learned suppressed emotion for me in my childhood.
Yes.
And so I just don't do that. If I'm expressing anger out loud, then I am really angry.
So if you're listening or watching 8 and want to weigh in, we would love to hear from you. If you want to comment or, send us a message, we'd love to hear it. It's an interesting topic. In a lot of reading, I kept coming across this anger idea. And I would say to him, honey, it's just strange because I was like, in those ways, you do not seem like an 8 because, he really isn't an angry person. Even at home, he is actually incredibly patient. It takes a whole lot for him to get angry. But that's where, our upbringing and our context really do affect even our core number.
Now, like social justice issues or like someone like the underdog being treated unfairly, like I can get angry about that.
Yeah.
So
this was an interesting quote from the same book, The Road Back to You. It says, 8s don't see themselves as angry people. In fact, they're genuinely surprised when they learn other people experience them as intimidating, insensitive, and domineering. 8s see themselves as honest, straight-talking people who aren't afraid to go nose to nose with whatever life throws at them and always leave everything on the field. So,
Yep, that's how you should do life.
So I think that's an interesting thing to know if you're not an 8 and you interact with 8s, whether it's at work or at home or in your family, friends, that it's kind of like a perspective thing where we may perceive the energy as intimidating or intense, but it really is an intense energy. But, once you continue to get to know 8s and you kind of learn where they're coming from, I think that helps a lot.
Cool.
So a couple more things about 8s. Professionally, they can be anything. They can be successful, not only as CEOs or, coaches, missionaries. They can be attorneys, but they also seem to gravitate towards being entrepreneurs because they enjoy working for themselves.
Yep, that's true.
So I wanted to end each number with kind of a growth point because that is kind of the entire intention of the Enneagram, is to not only come to know yourself and to have increased awareness so that you can know how to better operate as yourself, as a more true version of yourself, but you can interact better with the world, with your relationships around you. So when we think about the intelligence centers, and 8s operate most out of their body, their gut first. It is a very, head first type of action, right? Yeah. So what we can do is we can work towards bringing all 3 of those centers into balance. So you can intentionally work on things to do with your heart and with your mind that just bring your being into balance. So you may think about what's one thing that you can do for your heart. One thing that I was going to encourage is to embrace vulnerability. I've seen that kind of thrown out there for 8s quite a bit, that it is not a natural thing, but in terms of wholeness, it can be very helpful. So I don't know if you want to weigh in because...
I do that.
I do that.
But was it natural always? Or was that intentional?
Well, so I think I've always been naturally a very authentic person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think to be authentic, there's some vulnerability and transparency to begin with. As you know, my own journey, I would say 3 years ago, I intentionally really did hard work. I went through 12 months of intense therapy, and really dive deep into knowing myself and putting into practice things that, and I'm still working on this. I don't do it perfectly, but things that I needed to put in practice, both in my head, heart, and body, So I probably have become, I guess I probably have become more intentional about it, but maybe on the subconscious side of it. I don't know that I wake up every day and go, oh, I'm gonna be vulnerable today, but I do think I've sought after intentional relationships, and I've kept the relationships in my life that's probably the bigger thing, is I've kept the relationships in my life of the people who will embrace that vulnerability with me, and who have made that a safe place to be that and accept me for me. And I have put some pretty hard boundaries, and I will probably continue to do that with people who don't accept that vulnerability or won't return it or won't accept me for who I am in that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I will say that the more 8s that I meet, and even in my cohort, there were several 8s, and that is vulnerability is tough for 8s. It may be tough for everybody, but I've heard quite a few 8s say that vulnerability is tough, and that there's a lot of 8s that really hesitate with vulnerability. But I think that even, in our life, we've seen just the beauty in vulnerability. And, Brene Brown is everywhere now. But that's a strong encouragement to pick up her books, Daring Greatly and The Gifts of Imperfection. And they are great inspirations for the idea of vulnerability.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and move to 9s, so we don't run out of time here. And I want to talk about Jebb.
Okay. All right.
Talking about Jebb.
So, Jebb, do you want to read this list since this is you?
Oh, sure. Why not? Let me see here. What it feels like to be a 9. So, Enneagram 9, we are the peacemaker, I guess is the cute name that we get to carry with us. The peacemakers. Yes. We're called the sweethearts of the Enneagram.
Uh-oh.
Fun story. True. My first ever concert was the Sweethearts of the Rodeo. Way back in the 80s. All right. Let me just turn my microphone so I can read and whatever at the same time here. Talk. That's the word I'm looking for. Talk. All right. So what it feels like to be a 9. 1, I do almost anything to avoid conflict. That's very true. Yeah, that's just truth. 2, I'm not a self-starter. I resonate with that. I have learned to become a self-starter, but it is nowhere in my natural motivation to get started on anything on my own.
I've seen yourself start eating tacos.
Well, that's true. But that, I think my therapist might say, is like a coping mechanism.
Oh.
3, I love taking naps and being cozy at home. I don't love taking naps, but I do love being cozy at home. I feel like at the end of the day, it's not that I have been disingenuous. Is that the word? It's not that I've been inauthentic, right. But when I get home, I feel like I can finally be myself. So that one rings true. I have a hard time making decisions, and I can usually see many sides to every decision or issue, and that is
100%
super true. Annoyingly true. I think I said that in the last podcast. Like, I can't even, when I'm by myself, I can't even pick where I want to eat. Like, I'll end up not eating because I just can't figure it out. I love being outdoors. It's very peaceful to me. That's true. Especially solo outdoors for me personally. Like, I really love surfing. So sitting out on a surfboard is magical. I often tune out, get lost in the past, or get lost in doing everyday tasks. Wow, guys, this is all extreme. This is super true. I tend to procrastinate the things I need to do and get busy doing other things. Yep. actually, my therapist had to help me reframe my procrastination and see it as not a negative, and just like really embrace the good that comes out of my procrastination.
That's a good therapist. Can I get her number?
Right?
Yeah, she's fantastic. And I'm not giving her number. I want to get her business, but I don't need her to be booked up when I need her. Let's see here. I'm happy to compromise or go along with whatever someone else wants. Story of my life. Story of my life. I don't think that my opinion, presence, or actions make a big difference. And I'm quietly stubborn, and others see me as more peaceful than I really am. You betcha. That's me. I was going to say a bad word there, but I decided not to.
I think it's so much more fun. I think it's so fun to hear those from someone from that number. I think it's great. So
yeah. Well, and I don't really read that list as a sentence, like a death sentence. It's just kind of like, yeah, I know all those things, and I just have to learn to live with them.
So what's motivating the 9?
So the motivation for the 9 is the desire for inner and outer peace. So serenity. The core fear is loss and separation, which didn't make sense to me, but I kind of read up on it a little bit. And the idea is that the 9 works really hard to maintain that inner and outer peace because 9s have an amazing connection to kind of the wholeness, the harmony of everything, of the way things connect. And that's why, they can kind of see different, perspectives, because they kind of see us as kind of this, part of this, big harmonious whole. And so the fear would be kind of disconnected from that.
Yeah. And for me, it rings true in a lot of my relationships. I'm what they call a serial monogamist. My entire relationship experience since my first, what I would call serious relationship in the 6th grade, was just trying to hang on to what I had instead of really trying to have a healthy relationship or even have what I want. It was just trying to hang on to what I had.
Yeah. Okay. The talk style is said to be epic saga, which I'm curious if this rings true to you, because I have never heard you go on and on about something. So.
Oh, I have. No, I haven't.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there may have been a time, maybe, but that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like me. I don't know.
So if you're 9 listening and you have, any comments, you can, feel free to comment or send us a message. So the stance is withdrawing. So you withdraw to, kind of recharge in life.
Mm-hmm.
Far as
let me jump in there and say, which is weird. That throws people off sometimes, I think, because I am an extrovert. So I get energy with people, and then I get energy without people. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, really. But I've explained it to some people as my perfect work week would be 3 days in studio, 3 days by myself, 3 days in, 3 days by myself.
That's cool. Traits and behaviors of 9s. And I'll go ahead, and I forgot to show the 9 artwork.
It's okay. We don't
showed
mind.
this before. So there's Lauren Phoenix's 9. In the healthy space, 9s are natural mediators, unselfish, flexible, inclusive, inspiring. They can be self-actualized. So, they can learn how to, do what they need to do. They are usually chill and easygoing, even-tempered, quick to love, non-judgmental, down to earth. very, they can tend to create peaceful environments and set people at ease. In relationships, they can be reassuring. But they can also act decisively and boldly with conviction. So there may be a lot of times where they're willing to compromise or kind of see multiple perspectives, but every so often there's just something that is really, really important. And then that becomes very decisive and bold for a healthy 9. Does that resonate with you, Jebb?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've seen that too with him.
I think it's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's very true. I've seen him do that like in friendship, you know? Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
yeah,
it's described as...
I was thinking back to like the distant past of like high school when I was thinking of examples, but that's pretty cool to hear.
So it's described as the idea of right action. So there's just moments in life where, you know, it's just time to stand.
Well, because I mean, I don't know. I guess if I could say this, Jebb, is that like you've always been great about being someone that I could come and talk to and get different perspectives, like the 360 view. But like when it's really important and there needs to be that final decision or a right decision, like I've seen you go, here's all the perspectives I can see, but here's the right decision.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So they're comfortable with paradox and mystery. They can be contemplative, steady presence, gentle nature, and even though they're perceived as very peaceful, they actually have a very powerful, grounded inner core. Does that sound like truth?
I think so. I think I've struggled with that at times. But yeah, from the standpoint of if we're talking about a healthy 9, then yes.
Okay. In the average space, so what happens is it's easy for 9s to become more self-forgetting, to kind of start to lose a little bit of what they're really wanting or wanting to accomplish. So, you know, if you're not really paying attention, it starts to kind of slip into not just an easygoingness, but maybe a perceived easygoingness. But then there's just this quiet frustration with, I'm not really doing what I want to be doing, but I'm still kind of compromising, you know, whether it's in relationship or, you know, with goals. It can kind of become, you know, kind of dreamy, non-competitive, avoid conflict, lose focus, and little by little become a little bit more disengaged and passive. So then going into the unhealthy space, it's just kind of a continuation of that, just becoming more indecisive, and just continuing to merge with others and what they want. And then eventually all of that. In terms of relationship to anger, 9s are self-forgetting. So they forget their anger, they repress their anger, and kind of hold it down because, you know, you're trying to kind of go along. But then every so often that bubbles up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a stoic life, that of a 9.
So then it makes sense at home when you're like, yeah.
Just be
and you
myself.
Just,
play Call of Duty.
Yeah. Feel your feelings.
Yeah.
So what wing are you?
What wing do you think I am? You're not supposed to type each other, but we're close here. So let me just ask you, what wing do you think I am?
Oh, well,
I
okay.
think I already know.
You explain the wings and then I'll guess.
Okay. First, I wanted to throw out this quote from The Road Back to You. Perched at the summit of the Enneagram, 9s enjoy an unobstructed view of the world. From this vantage point, they not only have the benefit of seeing the world the way every other number sees it, but they also naturally incorporate into themselves a measure of the core characteristic strengths associated with every type. As Rizzo and Hudson observe, 9s can embody the idealism of 1s, the kindness of 2s, the attractiveness of 3s, the creativity of 4s, the intellectual horsepower of 5s, the loyalty of 6s, the optimism and adventurousness of 7s, and the strength of 8s. Unfortunately, from this privileged position, 9s tend to see the world from the viewpoint of every number but their own. So we know that's true, and our goal is, to uplift 9s. So in terms of wings, we have the 9-wing 1, the dreamer, and the 9-wing 1 is lofty, idealistic, a strong sense of morality, a little more focused. They kind of pull in some energy from the 1's perfectionism to accomplish their tasks. So they can be a little bit more focused in their goals and able to accomplish more. It can boosts their confidence. They're gentler on the surface, but can be critical, orderly, introverted, sometimes passive, aggressive, sometimes. Principled, modest, and steadfast. And then we have the 9-wing 8, which is called the referee, more energized, more grounded. So this is an interesting combination because you have the 9, which is the peacemaker, and then you have the 8-wing, which brings in, some of that kind of strong energy. So they can be more confident, stubborn, outgoing, inner directed, more access to anger, easier to be clear and direct about things that are important to them, more likely to act on their behalf, energetic in defending the underdog and working for the common good, more confrontational than other 9s, but still quick to be conciliatory, laid back, and cool. Yeah. See, I was leaning more towards the idealistic, but
I tend to lean towards the dreamer for Jebb, but there's things in the 8 that I can see him doing too.
Yeah, right. So then I was like, maybe he's the referee.
I don't know. I'll drop back to the 1 because I don't know.
Okay, tell us.
So I'm not sure now. See, freaking 9's coming through.
Oh no.
I have thought 1, but I think that, I don't know, like Jeremy, I can see both. I can see both sides to this coin, and I also think that that I might just be like, I forgot if you gave it a name, but like a centered 9. Like I just maybe don't have a strong wing. I don't know. But
well, and you
I
may
guess
fluctuate.
I would lean towards 1 most of the time.
Okay.
I mean, okay, if I took out the description and I just thought about the words, the dreamer or the referee, I would lean more towards the dreamer because like I can see that more. But man, I don't know. I can see them both.
Okay.
Maybe you are just a perfect 9.
Well, and I think that's what's interesting about the wings is they don't have to be static like the core number does.
Right. There's movement in them.
Yeah, there's movement.
Because they're flying.
Yeah.
You're just a flying 9.
Well,
you're
and
just
they're
flying in the clouds.
There is the theory. So there's a theory. Some people think or have noticed that they have 1 wing for the first half of their life, and then they gravitate to the other wing for the latter half of their life. I'm not sure about that.
Maybe you're in transition.
That's actually really interesting. I had not heard that. And yeah, I think I could be in transition because I see wing 1 more in my past than I do with some of these other ones in wing 8.
Okay.
So maybe that's it.
Well, it's been asked why that would be the case. And so it could just simply be we do kind of try to find that balance. So it could be a way of, finding that balance.
Interesting.
So famous 9s, Barack Obama, Bill Murray, Renee Zellweger, Abraham Lincoln, Walt Disney, Audrey Hepburn, Zoe Deschanel, and Claude Monet are a few famous nines.
Cool club.
Yeah. So, and professionally, the truth is that you can really find all numbers in all professions. It's just basically what motivates us. Our perspective kind of alters what we find appealing about a profession. Nines appreciate structure and stability and routine. So that can be really attractive to nines, but you're an entrepreneur, Jebb. So
yeah, but I can see this apply to my work style more than my actual career. But I can see how I've been told a lot in my work style that I have a really acute attention to detail, and I get grumpy when people try to change the schedule at the last minute and stuff like that. So I definitely strive for structure within my chaos.
Okay. So it's been said that nines can make great counselors, teachers, people in ministry, or PR people. So a growth point coming out of the body center, you can think about what is something that you can do to focus on your heart. And so a few ideas are to ask yourself how you're really feeling. Is there anger, frustration that you might be forgetting? You can practice saying no and voicing your opinion, and looking for people who see you and value your opinion.
Yeah, that sounds like familiar instruction.
All right, today's career tip is this. While we hear a lot about self-awareness, I want to talk about social awareness. Social awareness is the ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people and how your words and actions are going to affect others. So everyone is in their own unique emotional state every day, which can affect their work and how they relate to others. Because of this, working on social awareness can improve your own work and your interactions with people. So just as you can practice taking your own emotional temperature throughout the day, you can also come to the point of being more observant of others and their feelings too, and take the emotional temperature like when you walk into the room or into a meeting. So some key questions that can help you around social awareness is, what is the other party experiencing in this situation? Why might they be experiencing that? How will it impact their ability to perform? Good social awareness is invaluable, both personally and professionally. And any improvement in this component is going to provide for better interactions with others in any situation.
Are you looking for some custom creativity to incorporate into your spaces? Whether you need some inspirational art for your home, office, wedding, or event invitations, look no further than Lauren Phoenix Design. Lauren Phoenix is an Atlanta-based visual artist and illustrator. Lauren sells prints and digital downloads of all kinds, including a whole series on the Enneagram. In addition to illustrations, Lauren Phoenix also offers custom jackets, branding, t-shirt designs, tattoo designs, and more. Her inspiring work can be found online at laurenphoenixdesign.com. All
right, so last up for today is the ones. So we don't have a one on the show with us, but let's dive into the one.
Okay. The Enneagram 1 is described as the perfectionist or the reformer. What it feels like to be a 1. I love lists. I make lists for myself and maybe for you too. I'm my own worst critic. It's hard for me to relax. I feel like it's my responsibility to make the world a better place. If I say I'll do it, I'll do it. I've been told I'm too critical or judgmental. I see things very black or white, right or wrong. I notice if things are out of place. I feel the need to put things in order. I like routine and don't really like change. I get really disappointed when people don't do their best, do what's right, or break the rules. I spend a lot of time thinking of how to be a better person, including being thoughtful with my finances and being self-disciplined.
Other than the finances, I feel my wing 1 cropping back up again.
Okay.
That's funny. That's interesting.
Okay. So the ones are also in the body center. They are in the dependent stance. So with the 8, 9, and 1, we've got 8, that's the aggressive stance. We've got the 9, that's the withdrawing stance. And then we've got the 1 that is the dependent stance. So in regards to just...
What is that? What does dependent mean?
So it's called the dependent or the compliant stance. And basically it's their way of kind of operating with society. So in order to kind of go about the day and get things done, or in terms of getting energy, their frame of reference is with other people.
And they're going to play within the rules.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're going to refer to people.
Okay.
Yeah. The core motivation is strong principles and a desire for goodness. The core fear is being corrupt, evil, or defective.
And we forgot to show the number.
We did.
Here's by Lauren Phoenix, the 1 number.
And then the talk style is preaching, which I think, is self-explanatory. So a healthy 1 is principled, dependable, conscientious, responsible, idealistic, deeply committed, have strong integrity, serve, inspiring, reliable, organized, ethical. They value etiquette and discipline. They find neatness and order comforting. They thrive in structured environments and can be meticulous. So Burgess and Bell in the modern Enneagram say 1s on the Enneagram are motivated by strong principles and a desire for goodness. They envision a world that is ethical, just, and improved, a world that could be. They also say balanced 1s set a principled example for all of us. They walk the talk and live their values with grounded, embodied commitment. So in the average space, they can be perfectionists, can be very dualistic, which again is black or white thinking. That's either right or wrong. Very comparing, always comparing what they're doing versus what's right, or what others are doing versus the standard. They can be high-minded, idealistic, critical, rigid, tense, and can go into excessive moralizing. So then in an unhealthy space, when we kind of go into excess, 1s can be micromanaging. They start to procrastinate because of perfectionism. Usually they have a pretty strong work ethic and are very dependable, but they can kind of freeze if they feel like they can't accomplish basically perfection. So they can also become resentful, judgmental, sensitive to criticism, stingy with praise, have difficulty delegating, become controlling, and lean into OCD tendencies. So basically, I kind of want to go back to in the Enneagram, it's easy for us to hear the negatives and kind of start to forget the positives, because the negatives can be, very difficult to hear, or sometimes we just gravitate towards that. It's important in Enneagram work to have self-compassion. So that's pretty much for all the numbers. So with 1s, the 1 wing 9 is the idealist, more aloof and introverted, detached, relaxed, laid back, intellectual, motivated by philosophical ideals. They can command an impartial sense of justice. They can be more objective. They think before they speak, outwardly more calm. They can mull over decisions for a long time. So that's when the 9 peacemaker kind of starts to influence the 1. The 9 wing adds to the procrastination problem. So a 1 may already have the ability to procrastinate because they're afraid of not doing things perfectly. And then with the wing 9, they have to really be careful of procrastination.
You're welcome, 1s.
Yeah. So they can be easygoing in relationships. So the 1 wing 2 takes from the 2 energy, which is the helper. So 1 wing 2 is called the advocate. They're more extroverted, warm, helpful, and empathetic. Their principles are more directly involved with people. So they use kind of their principles with relationships. They have a desire to help reinforce and a desire for change. If they're not balanced, they may talk too much, try to accomplish too many tasks in a day, be more critical and controlling of others, and they may go from teaching to preaching. So a few famous ones: Nelson Mandela, Hillary Clinton, Jerry Seinfeld, Atticus Finch, Mahatma Gandhi, Richard Rohr, and Martha Stewart.
Jerry Seinfeld. Huh.
So I thought this was a fun quote from Ian Cron and Suzanne Stabile. It says, because they believe that tasks should be carried out methodically and that it's important to follow procedures and protocols, you not only want ones to pilot your plane, you also want them to be the engineer who designs the brake system on your car, the pharmacist who fills your prescriptions, the programmer writing the code for your company's new website, the architect drawing up plans for your dream house, the accountant preparing your taxes, and the editor combing through your latest book. And though I pray you never need one, you for sure want your cardiologist or neurosurgeon to be a one as well. Ones make top-notch lawyers, judges, politicians, military personnel, law enforcement officers, and of course, teachers.
And good resume writers.
Yes, excellent resume writers. So
I'm now going to my cardiologist and like, do you know your Enneagram number? And if they say anything other than a 1, I'm going to be like, I'm sorry.
I'm out.
You're out. Yes, you do want that attention to detail.
Yeah, that's really
and
interesting.
that meticulousness. So as far as a growth point goes, in bringing that balance to the body with the heart and the mind, a few ideas for your heart is to embrace self-compassion, to surrender perfection and embrace imperfection. Brene Brown has the book, The Gifts of Imperfection, which is a great recommendation. It is Ian Cron and Suzanne Stabile said, when your inner critic activates, smile and tell it you hear it and appreciate how it's trying to help you improve or avoid making mistakes. But you're taking a new path to self-acceptance in life.
It's good.
Whew,
That's good advice for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is.
My mind's a little blown here. I'm glad we only did 3 numbers.
Yeah.
All right. So
go ahead.
So next week we're doing what numbers?
So next week we will go to the heart triad, which is my triad, and it's 2, 3, and 4.
All right.
Yay.
Great. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this information and knowledge. It's really a beautiful thing. And it's a lot to think about. So I think I might be listening to this episode a couple of times to take it in.
All right,
so thank you.
Yeah.
Enjoyed being here.
By the way, if you're wondering where you can follow, like, comment, and find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, just search for Jeremy Tudor. And then again, I know that a lot of you listen to this as a podcast because, again, that's what a podcast is for. But you can also go to each episode and watch it on YouTube. Just search Jeremy Tudor or Career Brand Story to be able to find us. And Christie, where can we find you?
I am on Instagram at StarryEyedV, V-I-E.
Great. And Jebb, where can we find you besides taking splits out on the skate park?
Well, was not expecting that one. That hurts. You can find me on Instagram at Jebb Graff, JebbGraff. My website, jebbgraff.com. And same handle everywhere else. Jebb Graff. That's the guy.
All right. And Jebb did fall off a skateboard this week.
I did. I didn't do a split though. I fell on my hip, and
yes,
I've had a difficult time walking the past 3 or 4 days, however long it's been. But it's getting better.
Yes,
it's getting better.
So, we're glad you're doing better.
Welcome to 40.
Yeah.
That's right.
And with a bang.
Here's your walker. All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And tune in next week as we continue this Enneagram discussion and helping all of us know ourselves better. Keep thriving.
If you're interested in advertising your business on our podcast, we advertise for local and national companies. Contact McCay at careerbrandstory.com for more information. That's MCCAY at careerbrandstory.com.